All right, so welcome everyone. This is on healing towards including the humanities as a foundational component of medical training. Our presenters today are myself, Manisha Bharadia, Ashaka Patel, and Dr. Pamela Brett-MacLean also contributed to this presentation, but she will not be presenting with us. And today is November 5th, and this is session C15-a. So I just wanted to start things off by talking about Obliquity. Obliquity is a humanities and medicine workshop series that was created in 2019 at the University of Alberta in Canada. And essentially the idea behind Obliquity, it started off as a group of us that got together to talk about poetry. We had some speakers from the faculty at the University of Alberta, as well as community poets who would come and speak to medical students, as well as community members. About different literary topics, as well as just how to use or incorporate medicine and the humanities together. So as we've moved forward with the COVID pandemic, all of our sessions transitioned online, and you can see the link here for our website, which has become our largest platform and what we use to connect with all of our participants. And that's also where you can find all of our workshop recordings from the past years. So I'm going to hand it over to Ashka now, and she's going to go.
So how do I make you?
Sorry. So I'm going to hand it over to Ashka now, and she will go through the bulk of our presentation, and I hope you enjoy. Thank you.
Thanks, Manisha. So to get things started, philosopher William Dempsey stated that our introduction of philosophical studies into the medical school curricula is at least partly an attempt at remedial humanization. So as I'm sure we all may know, science is generally thought to depend on neutral detachment, which suggests intellectual rigor, while humanism is seen to foster intersubjectivity, which altogether sounds more warm and suggestive of social engagement. The formation of the medical humanities as a self-identified field is generally seen as a reactive response to the failings of modern medicine. Physicians have been reported to treat patients as cases or bearers of disease rather than individuals with illness. The road to including medical humanities in the medical curriculum has seen a great deal of change over the past few years. However, there is still a great deal left to accomplish to achieve a formal integration. Today, we plan to discuss some of the important milestones in this journey, Obliquity's own contribution, and current barriers that exist to integration. So first, I'll be discussing the fundamental role of arts and humanities in medical education. In 2020, the AAMC released a monumental report voicing the organization's support of the arts and humanities in medical education. As a world-renowned organization, this report is groundbreaking in recognizing the value of the humanities. The FRAME initiative was launched to support the integration of the arts and humanities into medical education with new strategies grounded in the concept that the practice of medicine is both an art and science. A portion of the executive summary, I just wanted to read a bit of it because it is very profound and explains the reasons why the humanities are pertinent to medical education. So the first 2 decades of the 21st century modern medicine have witnessed significant transformation in healthcare delivery, marked health disparities, civil unrest, unprecedented rates of physician burnout and suicide, and unforeseen public health crises in the forms of the opioid epidemic and the coronavirus pandemic. Physicians must be adaptive, lifelong learners who can effectively respond to these and future challenges. Now, more than ever, physicians must learn to interweave their developing scientific knowledge with emotional intelligence, critical thinking skills, and an understanding of social context. The AAMC believes that the arts and humanities can play a unique and unrealized role in preparing and equipping physicians for 21st century challenges. So overall, the support of the AAMC in uniting these two seemingly conflicting fields represents a shift favoring change. So in order to share the humanities with medical students and our community at large, Obliquity's work focuses around central goals that the humanities presents to medical training. So now we'll discuss some of our accomplishments following principles outlined in the AAMC's report. So Obliquity works to foster teamwork and collaboration, and some of our smaller scale accomplishments include work at our Schulich chapter. So here we host regular book clubs that provide students with an opportunity to get together in a safe space, make new friends, and establish a sense of camaraderie during the isolation of the pandemic. Students are able to share their feelings, thoughts, and ideas with the support of their colleagues. Not only have students voiced their appreciation around book discussion, but they have felt supported and a sense of togetherness, which has been difficult to facilitate during a curriculum that was taken to an entirely online platform. Our first session was held in February of 2021, and we brought together a group of pre-clerks that read Bloodletting and Miraculous Cures by Vincent Lam. This book follows young medical students to and through their journey in medical school. And during our discussion, students were surprised to discover that many of their experiences in undergrad, such as the competitiveness of achieving a high GPA, were almost universal experiences. It was unanimously found that many of the stories shared by Lam revealed hidden feelings that resonated with all of us, but most were too apprehensive to share aloud until we came together. So moving on, Obliquity supports learner wellness, learner well-being, and promotes resilience. And I believe this is through our workshops, which are designed not only to educate the audience of the value of medical humanities, but also to confer the skills necessary to successfully journey through medical school from a human-centered lens. One of our thoroughly enjoyed workshops featured Dr. Samina Ali, who is a pediatric emergency physician, who shared her own connection with the humanities in her practice as a physician, a wife, and a mother. So I attended this workshop back in 2020, and I was able to see the human side of a proficient physician. And I wanted to share my experience because I was very early in my first year of medical school, and this was my first workshop that I attended with Obliquity. I had not yet understood the trials and tribulations that would be following me in the future, and I came into med school with an idealized version of a physician as a steadfast hero, without taking the time to realize that doctors are human with human problems and human emotions. Dr. Ali shared that she listens to the fray after every pediatric cardiac arrest, which almost always ends with a failure to resuscitate. She shared her own difficulties in her personal life with her own husband's cardiac arrest. The raw experience that she shared left a profound impact on myself. Medicine is not merely a scientific practice. Physicians are inherently human and therefore inherently flawed and subject to normal feelings of grief and self-doubt. In a way, I felt almost validated as I entered medical school, wondering if I had the ability to conceal my own emotions for the tough road ahead. However, by hearing a renowned physician openly share her human side, it was indeed a turning point for me. There's no shame in having feelings, flaws, and our compassion is inevitably intertwined with the humanistic practice of medicine. If you're interested in watching Dr. Ali's workshop, you can watch it at on our YouTube channel, which is Obliquity.
Okay, so next we'll chat a little bit about the elective and some reflective pieces. So part of the development Obliquity has made in the past couple of years is that we now offer a pre-clerkship elective to University of Alberta medical students in their first and second year. And so the requirements for this elective are to attend a minimum of 12 hours of recorded workshop sessions and or Obliquity programming, and then completing some of these reflective pieces. So the reflections can be written after a particular session, or we have a final session with our medical students at the end of the year, and they can choose to do sort of an overall reflection on participating in this elective as a whole. So I've gotten permission to read part of a reflection from one of our medical students who's now in her third year. Her name is Stephanie Dahlmer, so I'll just read what she had written here. Last year, when I needed it, Obliquity allowed me to write dramatic poetry to express my despair at some of the ethical dilemmas in medicine I had encountered. I also was transfixed by poems that were shared about patient experiences. Their stories made my heart sing for this profession. But I'm not a doctor yet, and so in this dry season, I'm going to turn my eyes back to the present, filling my now with narrative. Obliquity is helping me do that, to find this moment's meaning, to practice my bounce back in response to the little difficulties I've been facing this past week, so that one day, when the code is called, the blood pools, the machines blare, and the heart stops, I'll know what to do to keep mine going.
Thanks, Manisha. So in regards to barriers to integration, I wanted to take some time to share a couple articles that outline some of the key issues. So The Orphan Child, Humanities in Modern Medical Education by Mary Colmer Horton describes the debate over medical humanities, which has been ongoing for over 60 years. Medical education remains focused around the science and technical aspects of medicine. While many respected scholars and medical educators have supported the value of humanities content and training, its inclusion still remains unstandardized. Barriers have been identified to be a lack of time and space in an already overburdened curriculum, and a lack of consensus on the exact content and instruction. We are divided when it comes to what to teach, who to teach, and how to teach. For instance, physician historians and academic historians continue to embrace the importance of teaching medical history, although this may directly oppose the opinions of other educators. A survey issued across the US and Canadian medical schools in 2000 found that the ethics training incorporated into curricula is highly variable, providing an inconsistent value to training. Overall, the value of humanities and humanistic inquiry is not necessarily challenged, but how to fit it into an overloaded curriculum is still an issue. Our next article is How are the Arts and Humanities used in medical education? And this article involves the current lay of the land of the current body of literature and stakeholder interviews. So the authors describe the body of literature as brief and episodic, a wide breadth with a lack of depth. Results demonstrated a plethora of literature with a lack of integration and agreement in regards to even terminology. Much of the literature lacked an evaluation component to the curricula, and that prevented a thorough analysis. And it was also found that most of the published curricula doesn't focus on interprofessional activities and more so solely focuses on the medical trainee. While the literature has expanded greatly over the past few years, we are not necessarily closer to standardizing medical humanities in the formal curriculum. However, given the attention that the humanities is currently receiving, we can be hopeful that we're moving in the right direction. So before we end this presentation, I just want to leave you a quote from the physician scholar Edmund Pellegrino. Can the doctor simultaneously attend man the molecular aggregate and man the person, man the unit of a complex society, and man the ineffable? Thank you.
Thank you, Ashaka. We are open to any questions, comments, and I can put in the chat as well the link to our website if anyone's interested in looking at. We have quite a few sessions still for the remainder of the year, and there's also the links to all of the recordings as well.
Well, I think, I mean, it's an awesome initiative. And as we say that, I mean, first of all, during the pandemic, when people, they were so scared, it was not just those who had got affected, but even the ones who had not got affected. So, we all were so mentally disturbed. And, we used to hear that how the doctors, they are also, working day in and day out. So, and, however good we are, after all, we all are human beings, so professionally, it was such a tough time for the doctors. And this kind of initiative, I'm sure it not only helped the patients, but the doctors also, to go beyond their professional expertise, and the session with the entire session is all about building relations. So great initiative, and it actually reminds me of a Bollywood movie, which is Munna Bhai MBBS. So it's basically, that where he talks about the Jadoo ki Chappi. So, and this movie was also, the idea had been taken from another movie. I'm forgetting the name of that movie. So basically what I'm thinking is, like my cousin is also a doctor, but then, if this kind of intent we put, of course everything is positive, but at the same time, like we say that a doctor, if he has to operate or heal his or her own family member, it becomes very difficult. So if that human touch that we are building in, maybe somewhere, the doctors might have if they get emotionally connected with their patients, won't it also kind of act as a hurdle in doing their job in a more professional manner? I mean, that is one thing which is coming to my mind. Otherwise, I am myself such an emotional person. I mean, a great initiative. Awesome.
Thank you so much. In response to your question or query, I think what we found is, especially in medical school, that's something almost a myth that we come in with, that if you connect emotionally with your patient, you suddenly compromise your role as their physician or their as a healthcare professional. And I think there's a difference between compromising yourself emotionally with a relationship with a patient versus being expressive and emotive and using that in order to build rapport and build trust and build strong relationships with your patients. So that's one of the things we really enjoy talking about and focusing on, is that you can still be, and perhaps you're a more effective physician when you are able to use your emotions in a productive way. And also, and that same token, that emotions don't necessarily always have to be productive. There is value innately in doctors expressing emotions and being able to operate and have some of that that humbleness, I suppose, of expressing their own emotions.
Thank you so much.
I'll also end the recording here so that the next group can take over.